Welcome to the United We Scan podcast, the podcast by rural carriers for rural carriers. The views expressed in this podcast do not reflect the views or opinions of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. We ask that you please consult your assigned union representative for guidance in your local area. Make sure you like this podcast, share with your fellow rural carriers, and subscribe to be notified each time a new episode is uploaded. Please rate this podcast 5 stars where applicable, and leave a comment or question for us below. Thank you. Now, here are the hosts of the United We Scan podcast.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah.
Episode 63. Kristen's not with us to begin with. She's traveling back home from family engagement, but she'll be joining us soon. So right now it's just me, Bill, and Toasty. So how you doing this week, Bill?
I'm doing fine. I'm antsy. I had a leg operation on Tuesday to clear a calcium deposit in my leg, so I am antsy to get back to work. Nothing worse than a bill cooped up for 5 days, and I'm just, after seeing some of our posts on the social media, as well as accounts coming out of my office, I'm ready to get back to work and stir the pot.
I hear that. How was your week, Toasty?
I've been drowning in political mail. Unfortunately, the route that I'm on has a dueling Republican candidates. So one didn't vote the way that the governor wanted him to vote. So been dealing with that all week. And of course, those come in WSH. So been trying to keep up with those, count all of that. Had almost full coverage almost every day with something. Been getting done around 8 hours, a little bit over. But other than that, it's not too bad. Weather's getting nice around here. So can't complain about that.
That's awesome. How was your week, Kristen?
Well, I just dropped my daughter and the stuff off at home, and I'm on my way to go pick up my dog right now. But other than that, my week was not too bad. I had my route Monday, Tuesday. I was supposed to be training the new RCA, but that got pushed to Wednesday, Thursday instead. So I ran my route actually Monday and Tuesday. And Wednesday we did the first day of OJT for the third new sub. Thursday, and I again had let them know about that poor LLV with transmission issues on Wednesday. Thursday, we were about 15 minutes from the end of the route, and the transmission completely went on us. And I've been telling them that for the last month and a half, 2 months, that sucker's going to go down on me while I'm training, and it did.
Well, at least you got to teach them about O time and green card time while being broken down with a government vehicle.
Yes, I did. It was about 90 minutes of O time for me. It was just crazy. We waited, as I said, it was about an hour and a half before they were going to have tow company tow one of the other LLVs out there and pick that one up. And an hour into waiting, I'm calling going, what's going on? And at that point, they decided then to send somebody else out with the LLV, and the supervisor came out to pick them up and called the tow company and told them just to come pick the LLV up. And so, yeah, that's about how that went. And then I was off. And then I was off on Friday and Saturday, and of course my annual Motor City Tattoo Expo, and my bonus son was also in the state wrestling championships down at Ford Field, and it was a good weekend all around. We have a new state champ in the household, so for Division II, he completed his goal. So. Other than that, that was my week. Wrapping up.
That's awesome.
How
Yeah,
about
my
you,
week
Jane?
was My week was normal for me in the post office, usual rigmarole and things like that. And then this weekend, Saturday, I spent several hours just writing up resolutions. I've already gotten 9 resolutions written for the next national convention and working on more as I go along. Most of mine right now that I was working on start with the Constitution and just simple things that affect rural carriers that the union can fix without having it. So binding resolutions. And next week or some other time, I'm going to start working on non-binding resolutions or contractual changes, things that require the post office to agree to. So those are the things that I'm working on. And then today I went and worked on the model railroad because we had a work session on it to fix things and find issues and stuff like that. It's a never ending process there. And then I did do a breakdown of Don Maston's latest article from the desk of the NRLCA president. And he literally just backed up everything that I wrote about that happened at SWAC. And it was amazing to think that this man thought that he could turn around and tell me to make sure I quoted him correctly. And then I turned around and quoted him correctly from his own article in my breakdown. And I spread it around through a lot of different social media sites. So if you're on there, check them out, including the United We Scan podcast group. So you can check that out too in there. So hashtag shameless plug. But I do have a couple of announcements to make. The first one is, of course, being sure that where you're getting your information from, you research it and make sure it is factually accurate because there are a lot of sources out there, even union sources, that give inaccurate information. So you have to make sure you get it from the actual information sources like the union page or sources that take it directly from the union and give it out for people to get. Don't just trust that one person's going to give you the right answer. Make sure you do your research because even union officials get things wrong. And my second announcement is I have been getting reports that the Atlanta area is having issues with their processing plants. That mail's not going out. Radar reports are not getting updated with DPS information or any mail going out. So if you're in those areas, get a hold of us. Let us know what's going on. We also have people that have been moved into SNDCs just before or during this mini mail survey. Get in touch with us. We want to know what's going on in those places. We want to know the issues, what's good, what's bad, everything that's going on. So get a hold of us. Message us on the Facebook page. Message us personally. Let us know what you got going on. Because as it stands, the only information that we get is either the information the union allows the craft to get or from firsthand knowledge from people who are actually involved in that. And we actually prefer the firsthand knowledge over the edited and redacted information that the union gives out to us. So please, if you're involved in some of this stuff, let us know what's going on. Give us the actual dealings that are happening out there. Because unfortunately, as we've noticed, even our union officials don't give us all the information that the craft deserves to have. Wouldn't you agree, Bill?
Oh, 100%. 100%. And, just to piggyback off of you in regards to our president, I have to laugh that, almost 9 months ago, we sat here and talked about the MOU being worked into the contract. And here we are with our president saying, basically, yeah, yeah, we're going to put it in there. And somewhere along those lines, regulars are going to be forced to carry on vacant routes. And ladies and gentlemen, that'll be the day for impeachment. I don't know what articles we can evoke there, but There's no way that, we work too hard to be forced to do extra labor. We are not city carriers, not adding on to the end of our routes. We work an evaluated system. We work it efficiently. We work it cost efficiently, versus the city carriers. And we deserve any time that we can work under our evaluation. And then you're going to come back and tell us that, oh, since we have an hour, 15 minutes under our evaluation, you can go out and help on another route. Let me put this simply. Kiss my ass. It's not happening when I'm president. Never will happen. That will never be part of our contract, that regulars could be forced to help on vacant route. That's not part of our contract. That's not part of our work responsibilities and duties. We won't tolerate it. I won't tolerate it. And unless we can come up with a new way of hiring quickly and expediently and getting new bodies into the workforce, having them trained by people like Kristen, and OJI is on site until we get the academies up and running efficiently with all the corrective information they need at their disposal, all the equipment they need. Like James pointed out, they can go out and put these SCCs up with brand new equipment. Well, where's the old equipment going to? Most of your growth is not going to be in these areas. It's going to be outside of these areas. It'll be in truly rural America. So what are you doing with all this excess equipment, ladies and gentlemen? I don't ever want to see a day where we are going to be forced to work like city carriers. We do a great job as a craft getting the product to our customers, watching out for our customers, watching out for each other. And we're entitled to any time we work under evaluation, because they're not going to turn around and say, oh, by the way, you worked over your evaluation, let us pay you for that. That's not happening. That's how the contract reads. If you're over, you get nothing. If you're under, you get paid for the full day. And we've worked for that. We've earned it. And they're not taking it away from us.
Yeah, I've been shocked at all the information coming from our union, and the fact that he is so brazen to be that honest with us about how he's working with management in this instance, and how he's working for management in this instance. I have yet to see an article where he actually fully defends the craft. I've seen him basically tell us that rural carriers have had it too good for too long. We worked too few hours for our pay and things like that. Where do you get off saying these things? And then you turn around and you have your director of steward operations telling their stewards that they can't file grievances on behalf of the craft in contractual violations when Article 15 says you can. Article 15 of our own damn contract says that the employee or the union can file a grievance. And it doesn't say it has to be a class action either. That is in a different paragraph, which makes it wholly different to the first part. The fact that you are sitting there and you are hamstringing your stewards from being able to protect this craft, and then telling them just settle for language so it can be settled at the lowest level, give management a slap on the hand because management doesn't know any better. I'm sorry, since management's not bothering to train the rural carriers, why not take that time that you're supposed to be spending on the rural carriers and spend it teaching your management not to violate the contract?
How much money they could save by just training the management on each contract that they're ahead of.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Exactly.
And this goes back to Rex, okay? In Ronnie's letter of October 2022, he said specifically that it was management responsibility to train for Rex, not give him a cheat sheet, not to give him, the 6 scan speech, but to train the carrier. Find me an office where management has actually trained, and I'll give you 1,000 offices that never saw a lick of training.
All we got
Mhm.
was the printed out PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
All we got told was 6 scans, except when I stood up and started telling everybody about all the other scans. I even put on a free training, unpaid training for anybody that wanted it. Because my management, who is actually good management, listens to the craft, listens to the carriers, and doesn't push the envelope, said, well, you can't put it on here, but if you want to put on a training, we'll even tell people what's going on. So we set it up. I set it up. I got everything put together. I went through it, told everybody what was going on. Basically, if you want to know what was talked about in my training, go back and listen to our episode on activity scans, because that was the training information I gave out to them, was that activity scan episode. Granted, some of the information has been changed because our union likes to change things without telling us. Again, another problem we have. But the gist of it is we had to do our own training because management wasn't going to do it. Our union leadership wasn't going to have the union do it. So we had to do it on our own. And that's why 66% of routes lost money.
And the union was not going to force management to do it either. In my office, a test office from the get-go of REC, okay, they're what, 12 years ago, okay, we went up, we got training with the supervisor and everything came back. It basically got put to the side for almost 3 years, basically, until the new scanners came out. But nobody in the office that I currently occupy in Westchester, Pennsylvania, nobody had any extensive training. They went to a 3-hour seminar with carriers and stewards, and to this day doesn't know how to run a radar report, doesn't know how to go in the rims and get a PTR report. It's this type of attitude, the laissez-faire that they have in regards to following the contractual language that's not being enforced from our DRs up to our NROs up to the national board. This should be a no compete clause in regards to putting Rex on hold because you have failed to fulfill your obligations under the contract, explicitly detailed in contractual language that you were bound by. And you have done nothing of the sort.
This isn't an easy system to understand. There's 100 different standards. There's, compared to the old system, which had what, 25? Those were easy to understand. Now you got to go through 3 pages of your 4241M to try to find everything and try to see if it matches your numbers.
Yeah, and then you have disputes. You can't file a grievance on management not doing something for the mini mail survey. You have to file a dispute, which then goes up to district, which the district manager has to meet with the district manager at the district level to resolve it. And of course, the district manager is going to say, well, I know nothing about this because he wasn't the one that did it. And then the district representative is going to sit there and go, well, since you know nothing about it, I guess we can't resolve this. We're going to just say that it doesn't matter and throw it back down to the carrier. And that's not
No
how it
action
should work either.
required. Yeah,
No
no
action
action required.
required. Yeah. So it's pathetic. And then
And,
to
and, and how many? Go ahead.
turn around and give us at SWAC the PowerPoint presentation about the mini mail survey. They could update the 99-page guide, the Q&A, and everything else on the website for Rex, but they didn't update the mini mail survey PowerPoint for the conferences. Like, it only took 2 minutes maximum to update the PowerPoint to match everything that they've given away to the management, but they couldn't update it for SWAC or SAC or any of the other ones. Maybe they'll have it updated for Atlantic or Western and maybe mid-states, but it wasn't updated for SWAC. What is their priority? To screw over the craft, it looks like.
Well, Toasty was talking about, justifying your numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, how do you justify numbers when the 5th day of the mini mail survey, the supervisor finally puts a end of day report on your case and all the numbers for every previous day are there? Yeah, you've been sitting there waiting to do it every day because of the fact that, you want to be able to compute everything every time it comes up as quickly as possible. But you're waiting 5 days for that. In the meantime, management's making the excuse that, oh, well, we can't get in the rim, so we can't get that report. The radar report's not up. I've heard this across the country in regards to, hey, we can't print these reports. Why not? Oop, we got a request to speak. You want to invite?
That's the crazy thing. In management, local management has no clue. District management has no clue. Regional management maybe has a clue. The only people that have a full clue of what's going on is national management and national leadership. And they aren't telling anybody anything. And that is a problem. The transparency is not there. It's time to turn around and get our national steward system, which was supposed to make information flowing much smoother, faster, and easier, has resulted in less information or no information at all. It's time to turn that around. It's time to step up. It's time for our leadership to be somebody who cares about the craft, cares about the carriers on the ground, especially ones that are getting killed out there, like the one down in Warren, though he was a city carrier, shot and killed. But yet we're more worried about stationary events, missing scans, things like that, instead of the safety of the carriers.
And I would like to invite whoever's listening on behalf of the national board to let Don know it's time for him to retire. Okay. You have milked the craft, you have milked the union for enough money. You're never going to serve on your route in Sonora, California. Do us all a favor, step aside, let me be president, and let me show you how to take care of the craft and not yourself. This is not about your golden parachute. This is not about padding your retirement income because you got a over evaluated route in Sonora, California that 2 subs have to service. This is not about getting your high threes. This is about taking care of the people who pay your damn check. The ones who are suffering under mismanagement, hostile work environments, threats and intimidation every day, helping on other routes, working Saturdays, working their drop days, working on Amazon Sundays if that's in the office, and having no personal life whatsoever. They're not afforded the luxury you have, Don, of having your spouse in your house that we paid for in Alexandria, Virginia. They're not afforded traveling to the conferences and the convention that you are with your spouse and the rest of the members of the national board. No, they're slogging away every damn day, putting up with the situations like in Atlanta during a mini mail survey, putting up with situations where they have no RCAs whatsoever. The RCAs are being sent 50 miles away. I sat there and I laughed and cried when somebody said, "Oh, they're sending me to an office that's almost 2 hours away." And I posed the question, "How far?" "Oh, it's almost 100 miles." What in God's name is going on that this is happening without the steward system being involved? Maybe the carrier doesn't know any better because they're under a threat. Maybe they're a new RCA and they're past their 2-week pay period. So now they can be sent out to other offices and they don't know any better. Ladies and gentlemen, step up and help your brothers and sisters, union or non union. If they do this shit to one of us, they do it to all of us. And it needs to stop.
Exactly. Exactly. And our steward system needs to step up. Our steward system needs to start turning around and putting their foot down on management. I understand that a lot of them don't want to deal with management and don't want to deal with fighting with management and are conflict avoidant when it comes to management. But it's time for them to step up. It's time for them to grieve the issues that are going on in these offices. And it's time for leadership to start putting their foot down on management. Because the longer we are treated like this, the longer management gets away with this, the harder it's going to be to come back from it.
This, James, and everybody listening, this is a critical year for contract negotiation. And if you think anybody on that board who hasn't been on their route years, let alone handling the new MDD scanners or the fourth reiteration of Rex, understands what we're going through, you're fooling yourself. And they don't care. They've got it made. They will never work their routes again. And they're up there because of cronyism, politics. I don't know. But they're not up there for us. That I do know. And we need to change that. We need to change it this year.
I can't believe that they would be so brazen to turn around and make these statements right in front of craft members, right in front of carriers that are out here on the streets doing this day in and day out. The fact that the only time the group clapped was when he talked about freeloaders and scabs and used a striking term, scabs. And yes, some people are going to correct me that that's not the only term for it. But in the modern day, when it comes to unions, the term scab really does mean a person who crosses a picket line to work while the union is striking. So the question I got to ask is, Don, you said the term scab at SWAC, and then you talk about the private industry doing striking. So are you actually violating federal law by calling for a postal strike? Is that what you're doing, Don?
Well, remember, he also got another clap whenever they were talking about the decertify movement and how shame on them. Well, why didn't you listen to what they had to say? Why don't you listen to what everyone was upset about? Why the whole decertify movement was even there? Because we don't get anything from the board. We don't get any communication. Nobody knew about the mini mail survey until exactly 30 days before, at the very last minute that they had to post it.
Yeah, the fact that his very first article in the magazine was completely about the decertify movement, and he turned around and said that it was a bunch of non-dues paying people, which totally was a lie because I've talked with many of the people within the decertify movement, and over half of the people that signed the decertify movement are dues paying members. And even the board wasn't willing to listen to dues paying members. Well, I guess I shouldn't actually have to say that because it's pretty obvious that they don't listen to dues paying members. So why wouldn't they take the time to find out why people don't want to pay dues into this union? Why are people pulling their dues from this union? The answer is simple, because the union doesn't listen to the people that pay the dues. They don't listen to the craft. And Don even admitted he's not listening to the craft when he said he's not going to try and use all of the resolutions that the craft put up to the board. He said he's only going to take 20 or 30 of them into negotiations. Now, I can understand taking some of them and setting them aside because they match other ones. But the fact that you're blatantly saying you're going to throw out most of the resolutions that people put up tells me you're still not listening to the craft.
I don't think
And
they're
mind
ever going to
you,
listen to the craft. They only listen to themselves.
and mind you, he stated that they started out with 400 resolutions, and they whittle it down to 20 to 30. And he says, and I prefer to have it closer to 20. Well, that other 10 that are in there might not be representing the majority of the craft as a whole, but those 10 may be representing 70% of the craft, just on different issues. So, how do you factor that in there, Don? How do you balance that, saying 70% of the people are affected by these 10, but that since there's not one issue, we're going to disregard them because they don't represent the majority? You represent everybody, every single carrier. Do your damn job.
Oh, yeah, and I bet you that he's going to try to put in that change to where regular carriers can volunteer to work on other routes, even though it was voted down last year at the national convention. I remember that one being up there and everybody voting no on that. I think it was 90% of the audience minimum voted no on that, if I remember looking around the room. Didn't get a head count, so don't quote me on the percentage. But it was voted down, and yet he's still going to try and put it in the contract. The one I bet he's probably already removed is the one I put in to make RCAs career RCAs, where they actually can start earning towards retirement like every other craft in the Postal Service. Don said he was going to be monitoring the NALC closely. Well, it's funny that they have that provision in their contract, but we don't.
And then he also mentioned about the PTF position and expanding that. But like you said before in the pregame chat, they're only guaranteed 2 K routes, and that's it. If there's not any K routes, especially thanks to RRECS after these past couple accounts, then where does that leave all these RCAs who are only getting 1 day every other week, or those on H routes and only take the vacation days?
Well, that's where you come up with table 5 for RCRCs, RCA's career. That way they don't get penalized for being, the full career PTF position in their dues paying, but they are eligible for career benefit.
Somebody just said, "Bill, don't give them any ideas." That's the point.
Yeah, I know.
We want to give them the ideas, so then we can turn around and point to them and say, "Oh, look, they actually listened to the podcast and decided to make this change because the craft wants this change, and we're talking about what the craft wants on this podcast." So they're going to turn around and they're going to take what we say on this podcast and try to put it into their system so they can try and earn back the votes that they've already lost over all the bullshit that they've talked.
No, and we welcome them listening to us, because guess what? We do represent the craft. from an OGI to stewards to state officers to local officers to regular career carriers to RCAs. We represent the whole spectrum of the craft. So you're not getting a microcosm of just 5 individuals up here talking their heads off. Well, 4 because Josh is disposed of. But the fact of the matter is that we are the craft, and you have no idea what's going on out there. If you did, you'd probably have an aneurysm right now because you wouldn't want to tolerate that in your office. But since you haven't been in your office in 10, 15 years, who gives a rat's ass? As long as they pay their dues and you get your check, right?
You mean like the aneurysms that we have every week listening to all the problems that are going on in this union?
Like I said, at least 40 people at SWAC approached me and basically verified and validated every horror story you hear or see on any social media type page is going on.
Yep.
And it's going on for real. This is not, people making stuff up. It almost word for word, verbatim, was exactly what you read online. And it's scary and it's saddening. I mean,
Infuriating.
yeah. I mean, let's go back to the lady that was crying at the national convention a couple years ago about how she's being treated at her office. How did that go over? I mean, was that actually resolved? I would like to know if it was. But here's a grown woman crying on the floor in front of 1,200 people about the horrendous atmosphere she works in.
People are on the floor begging for help from the national board. They're begging them to help fix the issues in their offices. They're begging for leadership to institute MOU 25 on hostile management, violations of the joint statement on workplace violence and harassment, things like that. And what does the leadership do? We'll get back to you on that. We'll look into that, but they never do. The problems stem from the top. The problems stem from management top. We have management getting daily telecons from their district managers who are just reaming them a new asshole, who are just constantly belittling them, treating them like garbage. And it's no wonder why a lot of offices managements treat them like garbage, because the ones just above their managers are treating them like garbage. And as they say, shit rolls downhill. And it's rolling downhill right onto the carriers. And the one thing I am deathly afraid of is that we have another Royal Oak or another Memphis. Another one of those, because leadership at the national union level in not just our union, but the city union, the clerk union, are not taking the steps to protect the carriers. And in today's day and age, it's becoming more and more likely to happen. And I am deathly afraid of that. I live not too far from Royal Oak. We have carriers who work at the Memphis post office. We have carriers that work at the Royal Oak post office. What's going to finally give to get the union to actually step up and protect the craft? It's going to take delegates voting for new leadership, because this leadership doesn't have the balls to do it.
Hey guys, I'm
Agreed.
going to add something in on that real quick. Not only with carriers begging and pleading on the national convention floor in Royal Oak, in Memphis, and what about the carriers that have taken their own lives because of how they've been treated at work, or, the ones that have lost the wrecks? How about the ones that have tempted to take their own lives and have constant PTSD because of the management that they have to deal with on a daily basis when they have gone through their national steward system and nothing has been taken care of. And they are literally scared to death to go to work every day, but they need that job to make ends meet at home.
That reminds me of a window clerk we had in Westchester, and something came up, and she was up for a PDI, and she went home and committed suicide. And she was an elderly woman, I'll say late 60s, maybe even 70, and still had to work, because of her family situation. And one day, one little thing just pushed her over, and everybody had thought maybe she had passed away because nobody had gotten any details. And then 4 days later, we found out she took her own life because she was stressed out. She left a note saying how she was stressed out about losing her job. Folks, nobody should ever be put in this situation. There's that gentleman in Tennessee that I've spoken about, injured on the job as an RCA. And I won't mention his name, and sat in the parking lot at a gun store, considering going in and buying a gun. That's what you're pushing people into. And don't tell me it's an isolated incident. It isn't. And if you lose one person, one carrier, one clerk, that way, that's one too many. Nobody should ever get to that point. Sure, you can talk about mental health issues, family issues, and everything else. But what are we if not a family? And why can't we take care of each other?
We're talking about this. If you really want to hear what management thinks when somebody goes through this, when somebody actually commits one of these heinous acts, go listen to From A to Arbitration. He's doing a series on the Memphis issue and the grievance that the NALC filed. And he actually went and arbitrated this in front of an arbitrator. And you can hear the postal inspector's disdain for the union, the management's disdain for the carrier and the union, and how the union, with Corey fighting for them, is trying to expose management's treatment of carriers. That is worth a listen to everybody here. I know I'm plugging a different podcast than our own, but it really will open your eyes.
Yeah, I've been listening to that past couple of weeks. It's on episode 2 as far as I know right now. But just trying to get through what management is basically lying about half the time, or they trip over their answers, or even management's advocate basically leading the questions during arbitration. It's frustrating and everything. And then also seeing people posting on some of these groups about our own OWCP representative for the NAL and National Rural Letter Carriers Association being rude and pushing people off and being short with them. Like for that carrier in Tennessee, the RCA that got injured on the job, that's what he has to deal with too. That's what any of us have to deal with if we try to use him as our representative. Frustrating.
That's why if I got injured, I wouldn't be going to our NRLCA guy. I'd be going to Ron Speakman first. I'd be getting my information from him because he knows OWCP inside and out with the Fed Up podcast. You can go listen to his too. He's got some great episodes on there. But the information you need to have and how quickly you need it, I'd rather get it from somebody who actually responds to you in a timely manner so that you can actually get the help you need as soon as possible. Because anytime you're injured on the job, you need to be cured quickly, efficiently. And OWCP is neither quick nor efficient. And the whole goal of OWCP is to get you back to work as quickly and efficiently as possible, but they make it so difficult for you to do. And having somebody on your side that can advocate for you and help you through all the whole process is the most important part of all of this. And our OWCP rep doesn't do that.
I'm just disgusted with the whole thing. I'm disgusted with the politics. I'm disgusted with the self-centeredness. Who somebody put up there, the hubris. It's not about me. It's not about James or Toasty, Josh, Kristen, anybody. It's about the craft. And the craft is Bill May, James Brennan, it's Kristen White, it's April Cutter, it's Jacques there and Jacques. It's about all of us, and it's about us being treated as individuals, about being treated and respected as human beings. We're the last step in the delivery operations. We're the last step of the service the United States Postal Service provides to all of America. And for some reason, we seem to be the dumping ground. Why? Why is that? Now, from my office, in my perspective, I have a bunch of supervisors who were never carriers. They were all clerks. They are in fear of the postmaster, who's in fear of the district manager. Because if they don't get on their telecoms, if they don't get their reports done in a timely fashion, if they have any issues with integrity scans, if they have any missed scans, these are just numbers, folks. We're talking about people's lives, okay? And we know the numbers are the business. Business is the numbers. But at some point, there has to be some type of connection with human beings, not reports, not percentages, not completions and everything else. We're talking about the interaction between human beings, treating them respectfully, with dignity, the same way you expect to be treated. But that's not what's happening in the post office. And I can't say it's intentional, but it's pretty damn close to being intentional in how they treat everybody, the city carriers, the clerks, the rural carriers, even the custodians, to a certain degree in my office. But the problem of it is that we should be working together. We shouldn't be fighting each other. But for some reason, this seems to be their mentality, to try to beat us up, try to rob us of what we're entitled to, of trying to take money out of our pockets to basically dehumanize us and turn us into robots. Okay, I've seen the plants where, the clerks are being replaced by robots that are sorting parcels and taking them over to Gaylords and being shipped to, the different offices or different routes. But that's the modernization of modern America, okay? All this AI and robotics, machinery, it's all part of being lean, mean, efficient, and profitable. But the problem of it is you still have to work with people. And they have seemed to forgotten this. They put their own interests above ours. Now, there's no problem with the supervisor bringing in their kid who's 2 years old on a Saturday. Or there's no problem with another supervisor bringing in two of their teenagers and having them throw parcels on a parcel sorting line. But God forbid you have to take a day off because your child's sick, or you have to take care of an elderly parent, because God knows we can't do without you on your route. Isn't that funny? We can do without management, but they can't do without us. What does that tell you in the line of importance where rural carriers should be placed at? We're the number one line. you guys aren't even in the picture. So get off our backs, work with us, treat us decently, and you'll reciprocate in kind. If not, the carriers are out there who have the knowledge and experience. We know how to make your life a living hell. Not saying that we will, but we can. Like I tell every customer that gets a little snotty with me, I just remind them, I know where you live. And they look at you and they laugh, and it's like, oh shit, he does. Don't mess with the best craft in the United States Postal Service.
Exactly. Treat us with humanity, and we will treat you with humanity. Treat us like garbage, and we're going to bury you in paperwork. We're going to bury you in so much paperwork, your kids are going to need help with the paperwork. Because this craft is the most important thing to each and every person on this podcast. We wouldn't be doing this if we didn't care about the craft. We wouldn't be sitting here and using our personal time for no pay to talk to the craft and help the craft and get the craft where they need to be. Because we actually care that much about you, the carrier, to do this. And I don't care if you are just a lowly ARC, RCA, or regular rural carrier, retired rural carrier, if you're an ADR, a DR, even if you're in the national steward system, the regionals, or even our national board. We want you listening to this craft just like we listen to this craft. We're telling you exactly what the craft is telling us. So listen, pay attention, get the answers you need, research, and make sure that whatever is happening, you know about. Because an educated craft is the bane of management.
I have to agree. I am home now, so if there's anything you guys want me to speak up on, please let me know before we end.
Oh, go for it. I mean, you've been listening to the whole thing pretty much, so if you've got any opinions, let us know.
No, not quite. Not quite. I had a few dead spots there, so I didn't hear as much as I was hoping to. Sorry, guys. I haven't been on all that too much tonight, but I was driving home and had to go get my doggie.
So, well, what's your opinion on leadership and the training systems that are going on in the NDCs, things like that?
I'm curious. I'm gonna reach out to my girlfriend and find out how things are going for her in New York, so I can definitely be able to find out from her how that's going. Other than that, I haven't heard anything great per se as of yet. Anyways, from the carrier's perspective, I know walking distances are a pain in the butt, but other than that, it's pretty much what I've heard lately. And I honestly, I can't even put an opinion out there without even hearing firsthand.
Well, what's your opinion on them putting these new casing equipments in the SNDCs and then scrapping all the old equipment from the offices that they pulled the carriers from?
My opinion, which I've stated before on that, if there's academies that need equipment, they should be using that old equipment and taking them to the academies. I mean, why not? We if we have the old equipment available, these academies that are short equipment, it's right there. Why not just send it up to where it needs to go? Number one. Yeah, new equipment would be great. It'd be great if all of us could get new equipment. I know quite a few of us that could use it. But I think honestly, in order to sufficiently train in some of these academies that don't have the proper equipment, then that's where it needs to go.
In my office, we still have some of the old static shelf cases where they can only fit in, for 6 rows. There's no adjustability whatsoever to them. That's how
Mm-hmm.
old some of our equipment is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ours
We
is too.
actually have
We
we have
have
one of those.
we have one case in our office that was brought over when they consolidated the two RMPOs, the routes in, and we don't even have the proper plastics to put on to do labels. So I can't tell you how thick those labels are on there because it's impossible to tear them off after so much, and they're stuck on. And all the other labels that we have that fit the rest of the cases don't fit that case. I mean, just the minor stuff like that it's ridiculous. And even me, I asked for my case because I want 1 inch for every address. Not only is that something I prefer, but it also would help my RCA that's assigned to my route. Some of those that are that I have to have you know half-inch slot for these addresses to fit it all in. I asked for either a wing or I want 6 shelves because I only have 5. And I was told, nope, can't get a wing. I'm still waiting to find out if I can get the shelves or not.
Yeah. God forbid they give you the equipment to do the job efficiently.
Oh, I know.
I mean, we're
You
not
know,
asking we're not asking for a Volvo right hand drive delivery truck or anything, with all wheel drive and 280 horsepower and all. We're looking for equipment to do our jobs. That's it. What's the big deal?
We were in our office, one of our newer routes that has a lot of new subdivisions on it. They didn't have a whole right side because there was no equipment. We kept asking for equipment, couldn't do anything. They finally took away the 3M case, tried to put it there. Well, it only has 3 shelves that are static. You can't add any more shelves. So they finally got one right before count. And they're having that carrier come in at 6 instead of 8 o'clock like everyone else. So they can try to get through their route because mapping's all messed up on it now.
Yeah, it's funny.
I
We
mean,
had
just
cases in my
basic
office.
necessities. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Chief.
we had cases in my office that had wings on them. They moved everybody from 5 shelves to 6 shelves, got rid of all the wings, and sent them to somewhere else, and they disappeared. And now we have a route that we had to get a case shipped in from another office because they couldn't find another one, and I think it came from Ypsilanti to get to my office. And because they closed one of the Ypsilanti offices and merged them into another office. So they had a few case pieces left. So we got one of those for them. They're the only case in our office that has 5 cases. Everybody else only gets 3, and a lot of them are packed up. And that person actually needs another wing to be able to have the 1-inch slot minimums, but they won't give them that wing to do that.
I had my former postmaster when she came in, all except for all the routes that had a wing, except for the one, she made them double sell the addresses to get rid of the equipment because she didn't want it. And then, yeah, so that's what we're looking at. It's because she didn't like the extra wings sticking out.
Or you get rid of the 4-drawer filing cabinet out of your postmaster's office because it wasn't the right color, and then she ordered a new one. Hold on.
Great use of postal money.
It still worked as a filing cabinet, but it wasn't the right color. I didn't know we were going for office motifs here.
Like no one in the
We
public
got.
sees it anyways.
I mean, same postmaster got rid of all the coffins and all the shelves that people had for hold mail and put these little particle board shelving things in. One we had to completely redo because she's the closest to the door. So any of the moisture from people's boots going by and anything like that pretty much made the sucker fall apart on its own.
Go ahead, Toasty. Get them.
I don't know. I'm just thinking back to last year when Postmaster General was in front of Congress, how many of those Congress people were saying rural America needs the post office? If you watch through it's 3 hours. It's a long video, but over half of them complain about understaffing, about blue boxes being taken away, collection boxes being taken away and moved. It's frustrating that nobody's even paying attention to those Congress people who are representing their constituents, who get complaints all the time about, especially postal stuff. Like my own congressman sat up there, and he's actually on the oversight committee, and said, I thought this job was going to be about bills and about helping veterans, and a majority of his calls are about postal.
It's just proof that even the public is realizing that they're losing trust in the Postal Service's plan. And I'm going to tell you this. I was just talking with somebody the other day about this and how Maston was touting DeJoy's 10-year plan and how great these SMDCs are with clean, brand new equipment, clean buildings, and things like that. And I'm looking at it going, yeah, he's working towards a plan where eventually we're not going to be delivering to all of these houses. Maston said that we're slowly becoming a parcel delivery service. So we're going to become the United States Parcel Service. Well, I'm sorry. This past week, I've had the most mail I've had since before Christmas. And it's not even political mail in mine. But I've had more mail in this past week during the mini mail survey than I have before Christmas. Can you explain that one to me? That we're apparently becoming a parcel service, but yet I still have more mail now than before SWAC?
Same.
The numbers don't add up.
My office is reporting that all of a sudden, all the markups are not coming back to us again during the mini mail survey. And I said, well, how bad is it? The one carrier said, Bill, I had 9 missorts. And we have 2 zip codes in our office. And I said, which one you at? And they said, the 80. And I said, okay. I said, what about the 82s? Oh, they had the normal stuff. So apparently they ran the 80s through the machine twice. Probably because of the fact that a carrier had turned around and tried to put up that they had 1,000 missorts in their 3 trays of DPS. I'm sitting there going, folks, you can fudge the answers sometimes, but at that point, you got to realize there's something wrong with this picture. Don't try to cheat the system that much, okay? Be ethical about it. But the missorts and everything that haven't shown up, the fact that all your markups are not coming back, isn't that amazing? How all of a sudden it starts during a mini mail survey, and the day after, we'll be right back to first base, and you'll be getting all your stuff back.
All right. You guys about ready to wrap this up for the night?
Well, Chris is.
I was going to say that. So, Kristen, you want to start us off with your final thoughts for the night?
Well, since I'm going to have to go back and listen to this after it's done and I post it up. So I apologize for not being present for most of the night, guys, but it was my family weekend away and whatnot. But yeah, we got one more week left of the mini mail survey. Be interesting. I know my RCA, the few days that I was able to kind of check and see, he was doing a good job. I will put this out there that management finally let him run the route Thursday completely on his own while I was out doing the OJT. Didn't have anybody help him. He got back to the office 30 minutes under evaluation on a 9-hour route. I mean, I can't complain about that one bit. Talked to my coworker when I went and picked up my dog. He was doing just fine, moving right along Saturday. So Yeah, I'm just waiting to see when I get to finish the OJT with the other one now that we're down the LLV that's with the jump seat in it. So, on that note, guys, one more week left of an email survey. Everybody can stay safe out there. I will definitely be back next week for a full episode. Next week is also Spring Booster for James and I, so that should be interesting to see what we hear and find out as well. And yeah, I'll let you guys finish this up for tonight.
Toasty, your final thoughts.
Kind of going off of what Bill was just finishing up with. Be ethical, be honest. Don't give management anything to try to bring back on you, especially when you're trying to file these disputes and grievances, because they'll try to take it and you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. Just breathe, count what you need to count. Let's get through this and see each other on the other side. We got 1 week left, like Kristen said. And then after that, not too much stress. Just keep doing the job. Keep going at it.
Bill, your final thoughts.
Well, after reading our president's latest edition of Forming the Craft, I have to say that I'm really disappointed that you would even consider the MOU being extended. I'd have to say I'm disappointed in considering that you're going to put this into the contract. I'm really disappointed that you don't know that we're not on call 7 days a week. I mean, the glaring deficiency in understanding the craft is prevalent to the point of saying, okay, you're not only in bed with the United States Postal Service, you're incompetent to the point of impeachment. The only problem is with the articles of impeachment that were posted up is that you have basically 2 positions out of 3 that would be a national board member or appointee. So that would fly in the face of actually being fair in regards to that action. But guess what? It's an option to be considered. And the other option is vote the delegates that represent your point of views, send them to the national convention, let them vote on the next president. It doesn't have to be me, but it can't be Don. Can't be Don Matson. Folks, if we go down this path, God bless you all that are going to be left in this situation, because it's going to go downhill. There's got to be a change in leadership. There's got to be a full-scale change on the national board, not just the president, but the other 4 positions, well, basically 3 positions that need to be corrected. Hopefully there is somebody that is a NRO might step up. I won't say his name, but I think he's the best promise for the future. He's not fully indoctrinated in the, I'll say, gang of 9 mentality. And from all areas of concern and discussions I've had with him and others about him, he's a stand-up individual. But that might come down the pike a little long, a little ways down the road. But we can't vote Don back in there. Can't keep going down this road. It's been going on for almost 20 years now. And look where we're at. It's been 12 years since the inception of the idea of Rex. And look where we're at. Look where we're at as a craft, vision, management, and the union has caused among the people who work on the floor with you. We should be helping each other, not at each other's throats. You got another week in the mini mail survey. Like I said, be ethical. You have to live with yourself. Do the right thing. Do the job as best as you can to your ability. Fight for everything you think you're entitled to. Remember, 2 best words during the mini mail survey: carrier discretion. And with that, go out and have a safe week. Do your job diligently. Watch out for your customers in your neighborhoods. Make sure you get your ass home. because you're the most important delivery of the day. And we don't want any situation popping up in the future where we lose a carrier or carriers in offices because of what's going on in the United States Postal Service. Watch out for each other. Get home to your loved ones. God bless you.
Thanks for all this, and Kristen for letting me run things tonight. I concur with everything that people have said here tonight. Reading the article today, if there is any person that is listening to this that still supports Don Maston to be president of this union after his comments at SWAC that I posted online and the comments he posted in his article this month, then you need to really reevaluate what he means to this craft, because he is taking us down a dark road that we're not going to be able to come back from. And if we continue down this path, there won't be a rural craft anymore. We'll be a city craft. And at that point, we might as well join the NALC, because we're going to be exactly identical to them. And we'll be harassed just as much as the city carriers are with our office times, 20-minute load times, street times. We'll have to fill out 3996s talking about how we're going to be back in 8 hours. And then management's going to use DOIS and TRAP to punish us because the computer says that we're going to have so much undertime that we can take more off of other routes, things like that. So right now, the biggest thing we need delegates. Delegates for National Convention. Last year, only 10% of the voting craft returned their ballots. If 20% of the craft that didn't vote last year voted this year, you can change the way the delegation is at National Convention. You just have to step up. I'm going to tell what Josh says first. He says, if you get overwhelmed, take a step back, take a deep breath, and step back in. Because at the end of the day, no matter what, we're all in this together. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
My name is Bill. I am chill. I don't. Oh, you said rap. I'm sorry.
Easy there, Bill. I know you got the will, but you really got to try and keep it chill.
Oh gosh, we now turned into a really bad rap session.
Oh, Josh. I got a guy named Josh. He's so posh. All right, somebody stop us.